Hi guys, this is Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm just here really to have a bit of a play. I watched a video and I can't remember now for the life of me who the video was by. So I will look back through my history and find who did that video. But it has inspired me to do a kind of bespoke the journal book thingy, I suppose. Just really gosh, I wish I could remember the lady's name. She was kind of doing a, use up your paper pads project, and she just made this most gorgeous little project, and it really didn't take that long, made a super cute book, and I just thought I'm going to have a go at doing that. And for me, I just thought it would kind of go really nicely with my Pink Boutique kit. So all I've done is taken my printed pieces, and what I've done is printed a few of them double-sided. So as you can see, double-sided ones there. And I've also got a few single-sided ones, but all I've done is kind of, I don't measure, as you know. So I took my first one and folded it roughly where I wanted it to be. And then, so it's not in half as an A4 sheet, if that makes sense. And then all I did was then folded over here that I'm going to make little tiny pockets. So that was just with like the excess that was hanging over from where I folded it, if that makes sense. So I did that with a few different pieces like this. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've used 5 sheets and done that with the 5 sheets. And some I've folded the pocket inside, if you see what I mean, and some I've folded kind of the other way, so that I've got a little bit of, differences, if you see what I mean. So that's kind of those. So, we've got a few pages there. Then I've got obviously a few that I've still got single-sided. So I might just kind of take some of those and fold those also. So these ones I might just have without the little flaps. What do you think? Should we have some without the flaps? Or what we could do is have a few smaller pages in here. I'm just kind of trying to do a little bit of a different kind of book, I suppose. Just for kind of interest, really. Let's have a look. Should we have a couple without the pockets? Or I guess what we could do is have a couple kind of smaller size pages, but with bigger pockets. I'm not sure that would work. Hold on. Sorry guys, I should have really thought this through. So let's just, right, let's fold this in half first. I wonder if we could have it that way around. Let's just have a look. That might kind of ruin the structure of the journal. Well, perhaps we'll just have a couple kind of just folded in half. So, just for some kind of difference in appearance. So, and this one I might have folded kind of the other way. Like that. And then obviously these ones are longer than the other pages, so I will need to trim these down kind of in line with the smaller pages, if you see what I mean. So I will do that obviously in a moment. I just see whether I've got other pages here. Yep. So like that. And then what I might do is even have a couple kind of stuck together and make kind of a really big kind of pocket like that. What do you think? Yeah, let's do that. So if I go back to my smaller pages like that, kind of do it roughly where it will need to be, and I'll have to trim off some of it there. So what I'll do is obviously I will need to trim that down to make it kind of roughly that size. And then I might leave it open at the side as kind of side loading pockets there. Yeah, I think that will work. So that's what I'm going to do with those ones. So I'll just put that to one side so that I don't forget what I'm doing. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm going to do. And then what I am probably going to do is take these two here, and I will probably kind of glue these together so they're thicker and make my cover, I think, from these. I will have a think about that and decide. But what I'm going to do now, sorry if this is all getting very confusing, I don't mean it to be, but I wanted to come and show you the process so that when I come back in a minute, I'm going to go to the sewing machine so that it all makes sense. So what I'm going to do is go to the sewing machine and kind of glue around my little pocket pieces here. Not glue around, sorry, stitch around my little pockets like that so that the pockets are stitched in. And then I will come back and we'll have a little bit of a play at kind of popping the book together. And, you know, just decorating the book. I mean, it's just kind of a play with just doing something a little bit different. You know, it's fun to kind of mix it up and do something different, isn't it, every now and then. So I shall go and do those bits on the sewing machine. I'm sorry if this is kind of as clear as mud so far. Hopefully this video will improve as the journal comes together. So I will see you guys shortly. Okay, bye. Right, I'm back. I've taken all my pages that I just kind of obviously have shown you all, and I stitched them together as per my initial kind of idea, which was obviously just folding the little bits over so you've got little kind of flaps here. And then I got absolutely carried away at the sewing machine. So I'm going to show you what I've done now, and then I'm going to kind of assemble it and come back to you again. So that's my pages kind of as per the initial plan. Move them to one side. Now, whilst I was at the sewing machine, then I kind of decided actually to grow my initial kind of idea for this journal. So I'm going to attempt to kind of make a bit of a like a hybrid kind of fold out folio-y thing. Yeah, folio-y thing, I suppose. Haven't really kind of done one of these before, and I am not going to you know, insult I think her name is oh gosh, Bohemian Crafting. She does the most incredible folios, and you know, with tons and tons and tons of fold out flaps and things. I am not going to obviously, you know, suggest that I am in any way mimicking her work, because hers look incredibly complex and things. But just kind of going along those kinds of lines with making a folio. So this is what I've done so far. I took two of my pages and stitched them together, and initially I was going to just leave them like this as kind of pockets. So I've got that one, and then I did this one, which I cut smaller and was going to have kind of obviously wrapped around here as per a small journal. However, as I did it, I then sort of thought, actually, what I could do is attach this to here, stitching it kind of down on the things, and then, you know, on the kind of edges, and then I've got a kind of folio. So that was my first thought. So then I thought, right, I'm going to take a couple of offcuts that I've got, and I'm going to just literally, again, fold them in half, stitch along them, and make some other bits that I could have as extra fold-in kind of flaps and pockets. So I've kind of got started with that, and I'm just going to kind of play around and place them until I'm happy with them kind of as I want them. I will probably now stitch this closed and probably pop it here. And again, I will probably stitch this back one closed as well, and probably the front one, because obviously if I'm going to stitch pockets on, that's going to obviously close that up. So that's my kind of plan now. I wanted to kind of share each stage with you. I'm certainly not at a point with this that I would be able to do a tutorial, because, you know, this is very much evolving, kind of, you know, on the fly really. So, you know, unfortunately, I'm not at a stage where I can do a tutorial, but what I can do, obviously, is come along and share with you each little piece as I kind of do it. Now, I don't think this is going to evolve much further than this. It will probably kind of stay as is-ish. And obviously then either attach my journal pages here, and it would kind of have a wraparound kind of effect like that. Or what I might do is stitch the journal pages together and then kind of elastic them in so that the journal could be slipped in and out. I haven't yet decided quite how I'm going to do that. And that's what I say. I'm not at a stage where I would be able to do a tutorial, because this is really not a kind of, you know, it's not a plan. It's just kind of evolving as I go. So I'm going to kind of go and play a bit more with my sewing machine and try and pop this together in some sort of semblance. And then hopefully we can come back and start kind of popping bits in and, you know, sticking some bits and pieces around so you've got some flaps and some tucks and things like that. So I will be back shortly. See you soon. Right, I'm back. So I have got various elements here. So I'm going to just kind of show you what I've done so far and what I've got here. And then, you know, we'll kind of start putting things together a bit. So basically I have got, well, let me start in order. So these are the scraps that I've got that have yet been cut up and formed into anything. So they're just some little bits and bobs that we can kind of turn to use. So pop that to one side. I've obviously got some lace and soft net and things like that to one side. I've got some pearl trim and, you know, all my usual bits and bobs. Now, quite excited by this, I saw a beautiful video by Susie from Creative Cafe Girl where she dyed some paper. She dyed two different ones, and I can't remember one of them, but I know that one of them was using red cabbage, and it turned out so pretty. I didn't have any red cabbage, but I did have a red pepper that was kind of, you know, past its sell-by date. I mean, I do eat things past their sell-by date, but it was, you know, shriveling and not looking that great. So I started by boiling that up and, you know, trying that. Unfortunately, that wasn't really releasing very much colour at all. So I added just a beetroot, you know, just a beetroot into the pot, and I boiled it for, I don't know, 10 minutes or something, not overly long. And then I obviously put it through the strainer into a kind of flattish dish that I would be able to use then. So I beetroot stained, because that was the predominant colour, these pages here. So I not coffee dyed them, beetroot stained them. Now when I did it, they looked kind of reasonably pink. When I was ironing them after they had dried, they took on a much paler shade, and I felt a little bit disappointed, you know, to the point that I almost kind of did something else with them. But actually, when I then took them kind of back to meet with the pieces, if you see what I mean, I thought actually they're quite pretty, because they're kind of subtle, you know, enough, but they have got a pink tinge. So, you know, kind of happy with them. So it's worth experimenting around and having a bit of a play. Probably if I do this again, I will maybe use just kind of 2 or 3 beetroots, maybe kind of boil it up for a bit longer. But I mean, obviously what happens is it starts to go kind of brown, and then I assume the water would change brown. So you've got to keep, you know, a bit of an eye on it. But anyway, so that was my beetroot stained paper. So I thought I would show you that. Really pretty. And then I have made a whole bunch of pieces to use with my journal and my folio. So kind of a whole bunch of different various things. I won't kind of bore you with them now. That was the tag that we kind of made together during my Easter weekend tag trio. And then just a few little bits and pieces. I made a little kind of flip out pad, incorporating some of that beautiful beetroot kind of dyed paper, so you can kind of see how that looks. So it looks really pretty, I think. So I've got those pieces that we can obviously have a play around with and, you know, do some bits with those. I've obviously got some journaling cards and things like that that I've just cut out from the Fussy Cuts pack, and some of the buildings and things. So I've got some bits ready to use. So I'll just pop those bits to one side. I'm trying to be a bit organised with this video, but no doubt within 10 minutes, you know, I'll be all over the place. Then I have the folio itself. So I explained kind of in the last little bit before I kind of broke to go and do some stitching. This has kind of evolved. I didn't really have a plan for it or anything like that. So if I kind of show you how it's evolved so far. So I've got a kind of opening, you know, triple sides, I guess you'd call it, or a double opening folio now. I just have stitched on all my little kind of pockets here. So I've got kind of a pocket front and back, and then 2 pockets here on the back. And then I reinforced obviously kind of the folds with just some lace trim there, just so that it's kind of a little bit stronger kind of on the folds. So that's kind of, you know, there. So that's as much as I've done with that at the moment. Kind of, you know, undecided really how this is all going to work together. Then I started on my kind of journal, and I talked before about, you know, doing something a little bit different. So what I've done, I've created the cover just from stitching 2 of the sheets together. So that's what the cover is kind of made from. Now, as you can see, I was having a few problems with my sewing machine tension at one point. So I have re-stitched along the bottom bit where I was obviously having these problems. So I can kind of start, you know, snipping these messy bits off. But, I mean, hopefully we might just cover those up with some trim or something anyway. So, I mean, hopefully there won't kind of be too much of a problem. And as I say, I did re-stitch it. So it should be kind of nice and sturdy and kind of glued together and held together properly. So I'm just trimming off, obviously, some of my little threads that are a bit too long. And then I've obviously got my pages that I'm going to pop in here. Now, because I'm trying to do a little bit of a different style journal, I wasn't quite sure, or I'm still not quite sure, how to kind of actually bind this and how to actually kind of attach it into my folio. The pages themselves, they're kind of single sheets of paper. They tend to have been printed double-sided on the whole. And then I've got a few sheets of the beautiful beetroot stained paper. I've got a vellum sheet that I've printed onto the vellum, so that looks really nice. Some more of the beetroot stained, and then I made a kind of large pocket here, and then a bit more of just the, you know, double-sided single sheets there. So I've got a few pages. Now, when I set out this project, I had intended on just stitching it down the middle in the sewing machine. However, it's now obviously a little bit thick. I don't think my sewing machine would really overly like that. So I'm not sure yet how to do that. But if I kind of pull my folio back in, again, I'm not quite sure how I want this to actually be inside the folio. So probably I'm thinking we will have it so as it comes out, you know, because I don't necessarily want it as a permanent feature in the folio. I can't decide which way round to actually kind of have it, whether to have it, you know, against that fold and it would fold around here, or obviously, you know, against that fold and it would fold around kind of that way. Or we could kind of have it where it kind of slips on at the edge. I don't know whether that would work. No, it won't work, because obviously this edge is now too short for the length of the journal. Just check whether if we had it at the front. Yeah, I think that's going to be the problem kind of either way. So either way, it would have to go actually into the folds. So yeah, just need to kind of decide really how to have that. Obviously, I've got some lace, some elastic here, which we could kind of have it threaded through so as it just, you know, clings onto the elastic. My only reservation with doing that, I'm not sure, you know, I don't want to damage this part, and obviously this is not that sturdy because it is actually effectively just 2 sheets of the 160 GSM kind of stitched together. So I'm not sure, you know, whether I actually think that that's going to be kind of robust enough, or not robust enough, whether it's going to be too aggressive, let's say too aggressive to kind of go over these. So I need to kind of decide really, and yeah, then kind of go from there. So, and probably you guys have probably got loads of fantastic ideas, and this is where again I could do with just you know, being able to kind of call on you guys and ask your opinions on what to do. But I mean, obviously this is a very new thing for me, making one of these, so you know, this is not something that I have done before, so I just thought I would come along and share the process and the kind of thought process that goes along with it. Because, you know, if you're doing kind of similar things to this, I know that, for instance, you know, when I watch other people's videos, they sometimes kind of miss out why they've done things. And then when I come to do it, I kind of think, oh, that looks a bit complicated, I'll try it this way, only to find it doesn't really work. Which then leads me to think, is that why they didn't do that in the first place? So, you know, I'm just trying to kind of share it with you so that you kind of, you know where I'm coming from. Right, so what I've done while I was waffling there is I've just taken that elastic and I've just tied it kind of in a bow here, which, you know, at the time I thought wouldn't look very nice, but actually I think that looks quite attractive with the bow. So effectively that could be how my journal is kind of held in. The elastic doesn't seem to be causing too much of a problem. Obviously I haven't tied it too tight, so it shouldn't be too damaging for that. And what we could do is kind of, I suppose, reinforce this slightly more with some sort of fabric or something, you know, if we're a little bit worried. So what I shall do is kind of leave that around there for a moment while I'm just kind of thinking this through. So, oops, leave that like that. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of somehow kind of bind this. So I'll probably just go for a 3-hole pamphlet stitch because it's nice and straightforward. And obviously I'm not that creative and imaginative to come up with something, you know, better or more imaginative really. So I will come back to you shortly once I have bound this. And then we'll get kind of decorating and doing kind of the fun stuff. Right, I'm back again. So it's a bit of a stop-start video, I'm afraid, but hopefully this will all be put together so it's at least kind of, you know, one part for you guys. So I've bound my journal now, obviously just using, you know, the normal pamphlet stitch. So that's kind of held together. Now I've taken the elastic off for the moment, but I did kind of pop it in there just to kind of check, and that would work okay. So that's kind of that part. Now, looking at this, you know, it's going to get quite bulgy quite quickly. So I think we need to be a little bit careful. Obviously, you know, this is completely kind of a new thing for me. You know, so we're going to have to kind of learn together, I'm afraid. So one of the pieces that I created, I just created a kind of little flip book here with a few pages. So we could pop this either in kind of one of the pockets of the folio, like that, or when I actually created it, I had thought I would be able to pop it inside the journal. Now, I'm not sure whether that's going to kind of bulk the journal out too much. I'm not sure. I mean, I had thought that would be kind of nice, but maybe we will have that as a little pull-out kind of item. So let me just grab, I've got here some white lace. I'm going to try and keep this kind of really crisp, nice white colours, you know, kind of like a fresh kind of look to this is what I'm going for, I think. So let me just grab my scissors. And so much for being organised, because literally between going and stitching my journal together and now I've lost the scissors, thank goodness they were just there. Right, so I'm going to trim that down there, and I'm just going to stick that across the top, you know, just so as we don't see the stitching. Hope I'm in frame. So, I mean, hopefully, if I get to grips with kind of this, and if it works, because I'm not entirely convinced yet whether it's going to, or whether it's going to actually kind of bulk out too much, but if it does, then hopefully, you know, we'll be able to kind of do a couple more, because I do love it, providing it does actually kind of end up working. So we could just kind of have a little bit of diamante trim on there. So I finally got some new glue. Yay! I have still got my old one. It's still going. Oops. But I thought I would actually open a new one for this video. So because it had got so irritating. Right. So there's our little pad, and we're just going to pop that kind of in there, like that. Now, something's annoying me here, because I can see that glue quite a bit down there, and it looks quite yellowy. So I'm going to have a think about whether we can cover that up. Now, a few more of the pieces that we've done. We did this tag, which we kind of did together, on the kind of tag trio weekend, so I might just tuck that in there. That looks pretty. And then let's just see what else we've got here. Right, I made a little pocket here, which I think I did when we launched, or when I launched the kit, and I just thought we could have this kind of maybe in here, because we're now not having the pad. So I thought we could have it in here, or, you know, on one of these pages anyway. So we'll decide where it looks best. And I did actually also make another slightly different pocket, which now I can't find. Oh, best laid plans and all that. You know, I thought I was being really organised. Oh, there it is. It was in the pile. So I was being organised. I just then still couldn't find it. So I've got this pocket here, which is a new pocket, which hopefully I'm going to do a video for a tutorial. May or may not have done that by the time that I've finally finished this this little folio and journal. So, you know, you may have seen it, you may not. So just wondering about that. Not sure. I quite like this one here, to be honest. So I might just have that one there. Might pop it up higher, because I don't want kind of half those words showing and half not. So, and I might just actually glue it. What do you think? Glue it right in, and then obviously we can have kind of just one of the journaling cards from the Fussy Cuts just kind of in there, or we could have it as a little bit of a pocket on the side, like that. Perhaps we'll do it like that. Obviously, I'm not wanting to bulk the journal out too much, because, yeah, I don't know, obviously, how you know, how well the folio will kind of take to that. So, you know, going to very much kind of do this as a bit of a trial and error. I mean, I love the look of it so far. I love the colours. I like the fact that I haven't coffee dyed this or distress inked it. It looks really beautiful. For some reason, something about it looks very wedding-y to me. Don't know quite why, but it's just got a bit of a wedding type look about it to me. So I might have that like that. Could have a bit more of this white lace trim, maybe covering up some of that awful stitching. The annoying thing is it looks better down the side, and obviously that stitching was okay. Well, perhaps we'll put it down the bottom just to kind of cover that up. Yeah, let's do that. So again, I'm trying not to overthink this because I don't want to be here all day. What I'll do is move this folio out of the way a bit so that it's not kind of there in the way. So let's just have the page kind of open a bit. Oops. Well, that's not really working, is it? So going to be obviously one of those days today. Right, there we go. Just trim that off like that. That looks pretty, doesn't it? And then I don't know whether you noticed on the cover, I have got here another pocket on the cover. So again, we can decorate the cover up in a moment, but we'll just kind of work on the inside first. So might leave this page plain here for a bit more journaling space. And then on this page, obviously we've got this pocket running down. So again, I mean, we could decorate the pocket up with a bit of lace trim. The only thing is then we lose these pretty flowers altogether. So just have a look. I made a little envelope here that just tucks behind the little building. Oops, like that. So maybe we will tuck that in there. Just have a look. Well, that's quite nice. Might just have a little bit of lace kind of just to the side. Obviously this is a very new kind of style of kind of journal and things for me. So, you know, it's not really kind of coming naturally to me. So you'll have to bear with me a bit, but hopefully it's going to look nice. So I might just pop a bit of lace along the bottom, or a bit of the soft net, which I'm just wondering if we could kind of, I was going to say whether we could staple it along there, but then, well, the twofold, we're going to bulk the journal out, which I've just talked about not doing, so perhaps I won't do that. Yeah. We won't do that. So I've got some white lace here, so perhaps we'll just kind of pop a bit of that along the bottom. So I'm just going to cut a little bit like that. And just cut the bottom off. It's got a kind of net looking piece just running along, like where there would be a seam, I suppose. There. Let's get rid of that. We could just pop that on there. That looks quite pretty. A bit worried about the glue now because, as I say, it looked very yellow through the lace where it was just now. So hopefully this is going to dry clear out. I haven't really had that happen before. in fairness, that was using that old one, which I'd had all those problems with. So it could be that that had obviously gone a bit yellow. So hopefully that's kind of all that was. So that's our little envelope, and we can obviously pop that in there like that. And in fact, just got some white fabric flowers. Just off of some trim. Let's pop one of those on there as well. There we go. And pop it in that way round so as you see the lace, because that looks pretty, doesn't it? So that's that one. I'm going to leave these pages obviously for journaling. This one is this gorgeous vellum page, so I'm not really going to do anything with that. So then we've got this page here. So obviously this is this big collage piece. Now my other pieces that I've got here, I did a couple of these gorgeous acetate pockets, which I really like. Haven't used them for a little while. I used to use them more often, and you kind of forget, don't you, things that you do. So I thought that would be fun. I've also got this piece, which I just wanted to use as a flip piece. And I thought what we could do is kind of hold it down with one of the houses or one of the buildings. So, for instance, this, like that. Now, I'm not sure whether this would be better not on one of these curved pages, if you see what I mean. So if I go to the other half of the book, see whether we've got... See, this one is kind of laying flat. So for me, that feels better here. So I think I'm going to pop that in there. And what I might do is round the corners. Oops. Like that. And just check I'm in frame and actually filming before I get too carried away. Now I'd left this one slightly longer, this flap. I thought was kind of nice to do. Actually, now I'm thinking perhaps we should have it like one of those ones that folds down instead. Oh gosh, come on. What do you think? Up or down? I think we might have to go for down. So if I'm going down, I'm going to actually cut it flush rather than have the longer edge. So just cut it like that. And again, I'll just round the corners there. And then what I'll do, this has got a bit of a dirty mark on there just from some ink I think that it picked up. So I think what we'll do is just pop some plain page in there. So let me just get some from my kind of scraps that I've got here to the side. Hold on. Oh. Everything I look at, I think, oh no, I want to use that for something else. So perhaps we'll go for this one. So if I kind of cut that. Like that. And I'll just cut it about here. Might have to trim this down slightly more. Whoops. And especially because I think that went really off to the side. Okay, actually just before I round the corners, we'll cut the other for the bottom. I'll just use this one. And just then round the corners. Oops. So yes, this is looking like it's going to turn into a very long video. Obviously I have lost track completely because where I've done it in so many, you know, stop-start pieces, I haven't got the foggiest idea now what time we're actually running to. So, you know, feel free to do it in kind of shifts or you know, switch off altogether if you are finding this incredibly dull. You know, as I say, I mean, I have not done one of these folios before, and this is just a totally kind of bespoke kind of journal-y, booklet, mini album-y type thing that I haven't done one of these before either. So, you know, it's just literally an evolving process as I'm working. So, you know, I'm not sure how successful this video is going to actually be anyway. So, I mean, hopefully it will be good enough to actually upload, because it would be frustrating if it's turned out so poor that I can't even put it up at all. And I've sat here for all this time chatting away and talking to myself only to actually not even be able to upload it. So let's hope it's not that terrible. But so we've got that one there, which we're going to just pop on like that. Oops. Now, do we want to pop any of the soft net or the lace or anything anywhere? Pop it behind the, maybe behind the little balcony building. Balcony? Boutique. I don't know whether that's what this is, but to me that looks like a little boutique entrance. Might be a hotel entrance or house, or I don't know. To me it just looks like a little kind of Parisian boutique. So there we go. Let me just glue that down. See if I've got some scraps of paper that I can kind of just pop down on my desk. No, I don't think I have today. Which is very strange, because I've always got pieces of paper laying around. Well, I mean, I have got pieces of paper laying around, but I don't want to do something really kind of distracting. Right, well, that's a bit annoying, so let's try and wipe off the glue from my messy surface here. I think this is because today I've tried to be quite organised with my you know, materials that I'm using for the project. So I've been quite organised with that, and then obviously now disorganised with everything else. So let me just see whether I've got a scrap of paper that I can just kind of put underneath me, that I can just glue against, because you know, I don't really like gluing straight onto that surface. I know it's very messy. So the, you know, the irony of actually saying that, it must just sound utterly ridiculous, but I would prefer not to get the glue on there, because obviously then I'm at risk of sticking my, here we go, sticking my journal onto what I've just glued. So that's why I like to kind of always pop a piece of paper or something down. It's not to actually protect my surface, it's just so that I'm kind of able to move then the gluey residue out the way, really. Right, so that's that piece. Just going to kind of dab that off like that. I'm going to just pop that in there. Oops. Like that. So just glue that on. So I hope everyone's having a good day. Let me know below, have you tried making some of these folios and, you know, got some tips? I mean, some are beautiful, aren't they, that people make? And I guess, you know, I mean, I guess with all these things, there's not really a right or a wrong way. It's just kind of play around with what works for you. I mean, my first thought was obviously make a folio with some envelopes, which funnily enough, actually, I'm just looking behind me now, and I've got some envelopes that I literally had kind of ready to go to make a folio with them. And then for some reason I went to make the journal, you know, this journal, wanting to make something a little bit different. And as I kind of stitched the pages together, I just kind of then thought, actually, I could picture the colours in this kit and the, you know, the pages once they were kind of stitched together. And I just thought, actually, I could make some sort of folio out of these. So, you know, I didn't set out kind of intending to do this at all. But hopefully it's going to turn out really fun and nice. Right, so that's that page. Then those are those pages there. So going back through the little journal. So I've got, as I say, these little acetate ones, which really like using these. Now, whether or not to glue them in or have them floating. And I made 2 of these for this journal. So I've got this one here and I've got this one here. So just have a look and see where we want them. Just trying to find my centre there. For some reason I just couldn't see it anywhere. So we could have this one down here. Seems a shame to cover this up. The only thing is I can see that there's been some glue here and it's kind of got a couple of spots missing. Right, this is that page here that I did as a kind of little pocket. So I wonder if we could have it on there. So if I just have a look. I had all those bits that I had cut out ready, and already I've now moved them and can't now see them anywhere. There we go, they got buried under some stuff. So if I were to have that there, then, oops. Oh, come on, come on, come on. And then we could have that kind of poking out there. Or we could have a little folded one, really, poking there. What do you think? Okay, so I'm going to glue this one on with hot glue, and actually just before I do, I just want to decide how I want this, whether I want to have it glued down completely or more like a tuck spot. So I might just do it as a little tuck spot. So just run some glue down those 2 edges, and I'm going to go over there so it's quite close. Whoops, like that, but hopefully not so close that it's going to kind of ruin how it folds. So that's that one. And actually we'll have a pink one, I think, in here, and maybe we'll have a little flower or something as just as the tab. Might back that onto a piece of lace as well. staple that on like that. Yeah, let's just staple that. You know, I really want this to look quite different, you know, to kind of all the other kind of journals. So I'm really trying to kind of just make it different, really. You know, kind of in my mind, I just wanted to do something different. Just going to glue that down as well, just so it's held really well. So I'll just wait for that to dry for a couple of moments. Now, do we want a bit of lace on here? Or we could have a bit there. So let's just cut that down so it's easier to handle. So again, we could pop it there, or we could have some kind of running down the edge. And the only thing is, if I have it down the edge, oh, I don't think that will affect that too much, actually. Just check what's on the other side. On this one, I might like a piece running across there. So, do we want it down there or down here? Maybe down the bottom, because otherwise we're just covering up these pretty roses, aren't we? So let's just pop that down there. Like that. That looks pretty. Check how this one's doing. Just pop this in here like that. Oops. And then got this one here that I just literally have folded one of the pages in half, and we could just have that tucked in behind, so that's quite nice, isn't it? And again, let's just round the corners to kind of make that look more of an actual piece rather than a scrap. So oops. Just pop that like that. And then on this one, I think that looked really pretty to have that going across at an angle. So I'm just going to do that. Like that. Oops. And then I'll just trim it off kind of in a moment. So okay. Just trim it here. I'll just trim this edge here. Like that. Okay, so it's all coming together now quite nicely. I also, oops, made this little kind of fold out. So we could tuck that in there, which is quite nice, isn't it? So there we go. Now let's have a look. I made one of those little kind of Matchbox style booklets, so we could have that kind of, this is the centre signature. I'm just obviously really wanting to cover up where I had that little white blotch. Let me just check I'm filming and in frame again. I know that I keep on doing that, but it doesn't hurt to check, does it? So let's have a look. That's quite pretty like that. I wonder whether we should put that on some net. Kind of backed onto some net. It's a shame to cover that pretty building up, isn't it? I mean, really my plan with this book was really not to actually kind of glue things down so much, because A, I didn't really want to bulk the book out, and B, I wanted it to be very much of a different style where you just, most things will pull out. So I might revert back to that and you know, stick to my guns quite, you know, quite how they kind of were in the first place. So I wonder whether I could just stick a word down or something where that glue is, you know, bothering me. So let's just have a look. Now, when I used these words on the tags that we made, I tore around them because I wanted a very shabby chic kind of look. And I mean, this is kind of shabby chic, but I just want it to look slightly different. Not such rough edges, more kind of cut to size, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to stick this on here. Whether or not we actually go for it or not, you know, remains to be seen. But I'll just stick it down because if we don't use it here, we can use it somewhere else. Yeah, I just want this to have a bit of a different look. So, you know, not quite so rustic looking, I suppose. So kind of shabby chic, but without the kind of rough edges. As I'm roughing up these edges, I say that. So, oh, the irony sometimes of when you're doing a video. Right, let's glue that onto there. And then we've got this ready to use anyway, even if we don't want to use it here. So we'll just glue that down. Just bring my piece of paper back to glue it onto. Just glue it like that. It might be that this is going to be too pink for that page. Let's just have a look. So if we took that, I'm just going to bring one of these flowers back. Oops. Yeah, I don't know whether it's just me. There's something very bridally looking about this book for me. I don't know why. Just seems to be taking on a bit of a bridal type look. Oh, do I just go for that and just leave that and hope that it doesn't really detract too much? Might just have to. Otherwise the word's just kind of stuck in the middle of those doors, which that's a bit strange, isn't it? Yeah, perhaps I'll just leave it. I quite like that to the side. You know, kind of a bit different there. So perhaps we'll do that. And then perhaps we'll just pop some lace down that side. Okay, so I will just hot glue this on. Again, just for speed, because obviously I'm aware that this video is just going on and on and on and on. So just pop that down. And then I'm just going to glue that flower on. Again, just using a bit of hot glue. Just dab that off with the tissue. There we go. And then I'm just going to kind of pop this along that side edge like that. Looks pretty. Just cut that off like that. Right, I keep shutting this just to see how bulky that this is getting, because I don't want it too bulky. So, you know, I really want to kind of restrain myself a little bit. So just check what pockets we've got, because I did quite a few of these little pockets. So let's just have a look. I've also got another one of those acetate, you know, floating pockets. But I mean, we could always pop that somewhere else. So just checking that I'm doing this the right way up. I think that's the right way. Can't really see, to be honest. We could have it even sideways on. What other pieces did we have? I also made this as, again, really I had in mind a more floating pocket for this. So again, you know, we could have it as a floating pocket or a fixed pocket. Let me just see whether I had any other bits that I actually kind of was intending on gluing in. So, and then the final piece that I actually kind of did as a kind of either stick on or something was this piece, which is like one of those little matchbook boxes that I thought we could kind of have somewhere around. Now also actually I just suddenly thought, because we could always have something here, you know, on one of these kind of little, oh gosh, this is where I've now glued this down a number of times that happens. So we could have kind of something in here. Just have a look. We could have that there. Could have it here. Oh, decisions. Or we could kind of maybe paperclip these in to the journal. Right. Oh, I can't decide. This is just too much now because, yeah, too much. Let's have a look at this a bit. So if we were to have a bit of lace kind of down there, if we were to have this kind of over here somewhere, what does that kind of look like to you guys? It's kind of nice, isn't it? And it's obviously another bit of an interesting piece. Now the only thing is, I've done my back stitch in here at the end. I don't want it obviously then coming apart if I kind of have to trim it down, which to me I'd have to trim it down kind of in line with that pocket, I think. What do you guys think? I do quite like it, I have to say, so perhaps we'll do that. Is that bit any smaller? They're about the same, so it doesn't really matter. But this was quite nice, being a bit of a different texture, so let's trim that down like that. Okay, so I'm just having a think now whether we could have that as a top loading pocket. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to take this out so that I don't glue anything onto this little kind of flippy pad. I'm going to tuck this in so that if I have glue seeping out, it seeps out onto here. Right, I probably should move the journal out of the way so that I don't actually glue anything onto there either. So we're going to glue it onto here, and I think we're going to glue it onto 3 sides, leaving the top. And again, I mean, I'm just literally using the hot glue because it's so quick when you're doing a video, you know. It just makes it really easy because I don't want to kind of just dilly-dally and be paper clipping, you know, bulldog clipping this together and taking forever with you guys just sat waiting for glue to dry. There we go. Just get those bits out that have seeped out there. Okay, so we've got that there. Now move my bits out the way, pop this back in, a little kind of flippy pad. We've got that in there. Okay, could have our little oh, why can I not say that? Could have that in there, and then could stick down. So let me move down some lace trim down this edge. Right. I don't know why I've suddenly moved on to the folio rather than the journal, but this is sometimes the way I work, I'm afraid. A little bit kind of, well, not really erratic, but I think sometimes, you know, kind of, it helps if you kind of know what's going to be on one piece, you know, before you kind of do another piece, doesn't it? So, you know, this kind of helps tie it all in together for me. Whereas otherwise, if I kind of just leave it to the side, I kind of forget almost what's going on here. You know, which I don't want to obviously forget what's going on here, because then it might not necessarily tie in when I've done it all. Right, I'm having a look to see if I've got any of my favourite diamond trim, which is obviously the one with the black background, which I'm sure I must have some, but now I can't actually see any for a moment. So again, I don't want to kind of bore you endlessly while I'm now looking for that, because you know, it is dragging on a bit. This bow I've actually distress inked slightly. It was white and black, but it's been a bit distressed, so I don't want to use that, because you know, to me it then doesn't quite tie in. Right, just found the most minuscule piece of trim, but that's probably good enough, because I just want a tiny bit of kind of bling there. So I will wet glue this on because it's really teeny. I don't want to burn my fingers putting it on. So I'm just going to kind of wet glue that down there. Oh gosh, come on. Right, so that's that piece. Now, okay. Now, I'm now going to be very strange by bringing the journal back in and checking again where we're at with the journal, whether we want the Matchbox book, whether we want it in the journal or whether we want it on here or in that pocket. Maybe here actually might be quite nice. Yeah, that might be quite nice, I think. So maybe on there. And again, maybe actually kind of pop that onto a little bit of that soft net, kind of come out behind it, so it's almost like a frame for it. Let's have a look. It's quite pretty, doesn't it? So if I just bring my scrap paper back for while I pop this down onto the net. So just put lots of glue on there. Okay. Just press it right down. Hopefully it's kind of going to dry-ish. You know, I mean, obviously it's not dry, but dry to a point where I can move it about, if you see what I mean. Okay. Put that out of the way. So if we were to have that there, and then would we want a little bit of white trim down the edge? Oh, that looks pretty, doesn't it? So I'll probably stick the white trim on first, so as we know kind of where to put the other piece, because I don't want to obviously pop that down and then not really have room for the trim. So just stick that down at the edge like that. Okay. Piece off. And then if we want that piece on there, and again I think what I'll do is, actually let me just press this down once more to get rid of any excess glue. Otherwise it will get stuck down to that page whether I want it to or not. So, and then what I'm going to do is make it a kind of tuck spot. So just going to hot glue down there, like that. And just pop that in there, like that. Okay, because then obviously what we can do is just pop a journaling card in behind there. So that looks nice. Now, did we have anything else that was kind of ready to go? Or was that kind of it? That might have been it. So, oops, no, one more piece. We've got this one here that, again, I mean, I had kind of intended on this as a bit of a floating pocket, so perhaps we will just kind of paper clip this one on. And obviously we could just pop a journaling card in like that. Then clip this one on. Do we want the lace trim at the top? Yeah, let's have it like that. So again, just bring that back in, take the journaling card out, just run some glue across there, pop that down like that. Okay, and then just trim that off. Okay, and we'll pop this in like that. And then obviously that can clip on there, you know, either sideways on or that way on, depending. And so probably just this one here left to go. Now, I would have probably preferred to have the lace trim running down the side, but I'm very aware of this very messy bottom bit, which I'm keen to obviously kind of cover up, so I'm going to just pop it down there instead, you know, just in an attempt to cover up that awful stitching. So we'll just pop that on like that. There we go. Okay, trim that off at the edge. Okay, so I'm going to rummage around for a paper clip, and then I'm just going to kind of stuff the these little pockets with a couple more tags and what have you. And then obviously I will just kind of pop this in here, pop a couple of things into these pockets, and I'm going to probably decorate the front of this what do you call it, folio. And then I shall be back with hopefully a flip through of the completed project. So I will see you shortly. Thanks then. Bye.